to join this workshop. So
see you in the workshop.
And vertical velocity of 60 meters per second.
जी हाँ, करीब करीब 12 मिनट 30 सेकंड का समय व्यतीत हो चुका है। हम लोग काफ़ी नज़दीक चंद्रमा की सतह पर, और फाइन ब्रेकिंग जो है वो है फेज है, वो लगभग ख़त्म होने की स्थिति में।
Just waiting for the confirmation for the fine breaking end.
तनाव भरे क्षण होते हैं जब इस तरह की कोई भी घटना के हम बहुत ही करीब होते हैं, क्योंकि वर्टिकल डिसेंट स्टार्ट होने वाला है। इसमें सारे संसूचक जो हैं वो लगातार अपनी गतिविधियां प्रदान कर रहे हैं।
After the completion of the fine breaking end, we will have the descent operations, where the spacecraft will be moved from nearly 400 to 700 kilometers down to the lunar surface.
Screens are showing the countdown, also the path that lander Vikram will take, as we are moments away to see that touchdown happening. Chandrayaan-2 is an Indian lunar mission that aims to improve our understanding of our closest neighbor, the moon. Discoveries that perhaps will contribute to national development and also serve humanity as a whole. These young students have participated in the space quiz, and they are here to witness the historic event. At ISRO, as the boundaries of India's capabilities in space continue to expand, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, encourages exploration of space potential and also application of space technologies to help ease of living. Prime Minister, in his Man Ki Baat address, had invited students to participate in space quiz. His appeal had got an overwhelming response, and today, apart from the scientists and other stakeholders, we have students not only of India but also of Bhutan to witness the soft landing of Chandrayaan-2 on the south polar region of the moon. So what makes Chandrayaan-2 special? This is the first space mission to conduct a soft landing on the moon's south polar region. The scientists here at ISTRAC are glued to their systems, analyzing all kinds of complex data. India is at the brink of creating history. Are you ready to witness history tonight? It all starts.
A very good morning and welcome from the Mission Operation Complex of Telemetry Tracking and Command Network, an unit of Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, located in Bangalore in the southern part of India. My name is Radhakrishnan, and I have with me my colleague Dr. Alok, who will be bringing to you the live coverage of the Chandrayaan-2 mission in English and Hindi. Today, we are all awaiting anxiously to witness the final phase of critical and most technologically challenging mission operations of Chandrayaan-2, wherein Indian lunar lander named Vikram will be making the soft landing on the surface of the moon. We are approximately 28 minutes away from this important event. For the viewers, just a quick update on the Chandrayaan-2 mission. Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft is a composite unit consisting of three independent modules, named an orbiter, a lander called Vikram, and a rover named Pragyan, which is housed inside the lander unit. At the time of launch, all these three modules are held together as a single spacecraft called Chandrayaan-2, and the total mass of Chandrayaan-2 at launch was 3,850 kilograms. As you are all aware, launch of Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft took place on 22nd of July on board India's heaviest GSLV Mark III launcher from Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota. The launcher has successfully placed Chandrayaan-2 into an elliptical transfer orbit around the Earth. Subsequently, Chandrayaan-2 composite module raised its orbit around the Earth by using its rocket propulsion system in preparation to move from the earthbound phase to the lunar transfer phase. Now, if you look at the overall sequence that has happened since the Chandrayaan-2 was inserted into the orbit, the Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft was eventually captured into an orbit around the moon, and later it performed almost 4 lunar-bound maneuvers and lowered its orbit to almost 100 kilometers around the Earth. You may be aware, on 2nd of September, which was 5 days ago from where we are today, the orbiter and the lander module were separated from each other. And the very next day, after the orbiter and lander module got separated, and the lander Vikram module performed two deboost operations just to move the orbit from an orbit of 100 by 100 kilometers to an orbit of 30 kilometers by 100 kilometers around the moon. So as on date, where we are almost 26 minutes away from the launch, and the orbiter module is rotating at an orbit of around 100 kilometers around the moon, and we have the Vikram lander module, which is moving in an orbit of 30 kilometers by 100 kilometers. And since the launch of Chandrayaan-2 on 22nd July, today is the 40th day when landing is expected to take place. So right now we are around 26 minutes away from the start of the most important and crucial powered descent operations. And once this powered descent maneuver is initiated, it's expected to take roughly around 15 minutes for the lander Vikram to make a soft landing on the surface of the moon.
नमस्ते, सुप्रभात और आने वाला दिन शुभ हो। इसी संदेश के साथ मैं आलोक श्रीवास्तव अपने वरिष्ठ वैज्ञानिक साथी श्री राधाकृष्ण जी के साथ आप सभी देश विदेश के दर्शकों का हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं। हम इस समय इसरो टेलीमेट्री ट्रैकिंग एंड कमांड नेटवर्क ट्रैक के मिशन कॉम्प्लेक्स से इस बहुचर्चित क्षण का आंखों देखा हाल प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं। उपलब्धियों के भारतीय आकाश का एक और दैदीप्यमान सितारा चंद्रयान-2 के रूप में परिणति के शिखर पर पहुंच चुका है, जिसमें चंद्रयान-2 के लैंडर विक्रम और उसके अंदर संयोजित रोवर प्रज्ञान चंद्रमा के दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर 2 क्रेटरों मैग्नीस सी और सिम्पेलिस एन के बीच मुख्य संभावित अवतरण क्षेत्र SLS 54 PLS1 जो 70.90267 साउथ अक्षांश या लैटिट्यूड और 22.7811 ईस्ट पूर्व देशांतर या लॉन्जिट्यूड के बीच उतरकर आज भारत के अंतरिक्ष इतिहास में एक नया अध्याय जोड़ेगा। आपकी जानकारी के लिए बता दूं कि इस अक्षांश और देशांतर पर उतरने के लिए लगभग 84 मिनट पहले ही पूर्व निर्धारित निर्देशांकों 70.89992 साउथ अक्षांश और 22.7811 पूर्वांतर देशांतर को लैंडर के कंप्यूटर को भेज दिया गया है। किन्हीं तकनीकी कारणों के चलते अगर ये संभव न हो सका तो इसरो ने इसके लिए दूसरा विकल्प भी तैयार रखा है, जो ALS-0, ALS-1 जो 67.74915 साउथ अक्षांश और 18.46947 वेस्ट देशांतर लॉन्जिट्यूड का चयन कर लिया गया है। आज के दिन तक पहुंचने से पहले चंद्रयान-2 की 48 दिनों की ये लंबी सुनियोजित यात्रा चुनौतियों, कल्पनाओं और यथार्थ की गणनाओं से भरी हुई थी। और आज ये यात्रा आज अपने अंतिम पड़ाव पर आ पहुंची है। इस संपूर्ण यात्रा का वृत्तांत अगर सार संक्षेप में कहें तो केवल इतना कि एक तरफ चुनौतियों की कमी नहीं थी, तो दूसरी तरफ चंद्रयान 2 के सृजनकर्ताओं के आत्मविश्वास और तकनीकी नेतृत्व में भी कभी कोई कमी नहीं आई। तभी आज भारतीय वैज्ञानिकों और उनका ये अभियान हर कसौटियों पर खरा उतरा है। तभी ये अभियान तकनीकी और एक लंबे इंतजार के बाद आज वो घड़ी आ ही गई जब हम अपने इस अभियान को पूरा करने के साथ ही एक ऐसा इतिहास रचने जा रहे हैं जो आने वाले दिनों में एक मील का पत्थर साबित होगा। किसी भी अंतरिक्ष विज्ञान समृद्ध राष्ट्र के लिए वो दिन बहुत मायने रखता है जब वो शेष विश्व की तकनीकी और विज्ञान के उन्नत राह पर कदम से कदम मिलाकर चलने को तत्पर हो और तैयार हो। गर्व और उत्साह, आत्मविश्वास और प्रगति पथ पर अग्रसर होने की चाह जैसी भावनाओं का मिला जुला प्रवाह आज चंद्रयान 2 के साथ हर भारतीय के दिल में जागृत है। इस समय आप मिशन कॉम्प्लेक्स के अंदर का ये विहंगम दृश्य देख रहे हैं। बड़ी बेसब्री से हर भारतीय वैज्ञानिक आंकड़ों पर गहन नजर बनाए हुए है। हर आंकड़े अपने आप में एक पूरी कहानी बयान करते हैं।
The countdown is at minus 22 minutes, 2 seconds to go. After 22 minutes, you will be witnessing the descent, power descent of the Vikram lander module. As I just mentioned, the Vikram lander module is presently orbiting in an orbit of 30 kilometers perihelion, which is the lowest altitude from the surface of the moon, and the apolune, which is the highest point of the orbit from the surface of moon, is around 100 kilometers. And once the descent operation starts, we expect to take roughly around 15 minutes. And some of the important events during the descent phase, which we'll be covering in the subsequent point as we go closer to this particular activity. But before we do that, just to get a update on the orbiter module, which has been orbiting in an orbit of around 100 kilometers. As you are all aware, the total mass of orbiter module is 2,369 kilograms. At launch, we had the composite module of orbiter and the Vikram lander, which was 3,850. So the orbital module, now that it has got separate 370 kilograms.
So when I came to US, I was very new to English as well as American English. I used to write words like COLOUR for color as compared to COLOR. So all of these words and phrases were new to me, and what helped me to be confident in my writing and to speak English and write English clearly was Grammarly, because with the help of that I was able to sound natural in my communication when I was sending emails to my hiring manager, recruiter, or whether typing a WhatsApp message or even while writing comments. It helped me a lot. So Grammarly definitely has a free version which helps you with word suggestions, spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, punctuation, but with paid version you are able to rephrase the whole sentence and sound more natural, which has helped me the most, and most importantly a plagiarism checker. So what are you waiting for, dosto? You can get started for free with Grammarly.
We flew over the clouds and into the sunrise. Then Nanny took us into the future.
Do you believe it?
The separation has happened, it has happened successfully, and I'm not surprised at all. Of course, the entire nation, the entire world is watching. What more can you tell us? What's next in store for Chandrayaan-3?
So now the two components of the Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft are separate now. So far we had the propulsion module and the lander module, which were one block. They were known as the integrated spacecraft, but now that integrated spacecraft is two parts. This is something that had taken place just like clockwork in Chandrayaan-2 as well. As the spacecraft reached its final orbit around the moon, which was roughly 120 by 120 kilometer circular orbit, then the orbiter separated and the lander module, Vikram lander module, separated. This time around the same thing's happening, only that the nomenclature has slightly changed. Instead of an orbiter this time around, they're calling it the propulsion module. And of course, the lander maintains the same name. The lander is known as the Vikram lander. So both of them are on their separate journeys. As ISRO has just pointed out officially, the propulsion module henceforth will continue to circle the moon in its orbit for a couple of years or for a couple of months, and in that orbit it will be able to conduct its studies of the exoplanets. It can look for planets with any signs of life. It can look for other celestial bodies that have the possibility of supporting life, and it will also study the Earth's atmosphere from that distance and polarization phenomena in the Earth's atmosphere. As far as the lander is concerned, this is the beginning of the job of the lunar lander, because the lunar lander is the one that carries the rover also within its belly. So this is the most crucial moment for the lunar lander, and here is when the final phase of the mission begins. This is the commencement of the landing phase of the mission, because now the lander is the only part of the spacecraft that is to complete its job. The other two parts have completed. The rocket's done its job. The propulsion module has done its job of taking the craft to a certain location in the lunar orbit. Now the lunar lander's journey begins. This is when the lunar lander, you had pointed out just a while back that the lunar lander will test its electronics. Let me give you some specific details. The lunar lander will be testing 4 engines on board. So all these 4 engines are to be fired in different combinations. ISRO will be testing them anytime from now. These engines are being test fired to ensure that these engines have what it takes to slow down the spacecraft. So the slowing down process itself is actually to slow down the spacecraft from a few kilometers per second velocity to 1 meters per second, which is the ideal landing velocity for the Vikram lander. Even 2 meters per second is acceptable. They've made it tolerant to even resist 2 or slightly more than 2 meters per second, but the ideal landing velocity would be 1 meter per second. So when an object is, literally falling at multiple kilometers per second, there is no atmosphere on the moon to actually slow it down, especially when a space shuttle or when any other reusable rocket is re-entering the Earth. The atmosphere does the job of slowing it down, and once it enters the atmosphere, there is the dense layer of air, and you can use a parachute to slow down. But on the moon, you don't have that luxury. There is very thin atmosphere, so the impact of atmospheric drag is negligible. So the spacecraft has to use its own engines, its own means to slow itself down. So now all eyes will be on the lander module, which is the Vikram lander, and of course its various sensors. There are multiple cameras on board. There are maps that are programmed on board. So you might wonder, how is this lander managing this entire process autonomously? Because it takes at least 2.5 seconds to communicate between Earth and the lander. That's the kind of distance we're dealing with, 3.84 lakh kilometers. So the lander actually has a great deal of software and artificial intelligence built into it, such that it takes decisions based on preset commands. So it will analyze its maps, onboard maps, and look at the lunar surface and then figure out which is the most appropriate site for landing. It will activate its cameras, it will activate its altimeters, it will activate its sensors. Each one of them will work with the other to ensure that the lander gets clear decision-making data to be able to execute the lunar landing on August 23rd. So this is what we are looking forward to in the coming days. The sensors will be tested, the engines will be tested, and of course thereafter there could also be more images and videos that the lander will be sending from its own cameras. Shivan.
Siddharth, now, there was a little confusion, and a lot of people have had this question.